Mics. See, the most important decision of the night is to figure out who's going to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I've got 10 seconds to figure that out.
The tough decisions you face.
Tough. Okay, here it is, 4 o'clock straight up. Thank you all for showing up. Thanks for those who have called in from far away lands. It is the 2nd of May. Wow, I already went through April. And we are pulled together for a special meeting tonight. We'll talk about the details in a moment. First of all, we're going to get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ty, would you lead us?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent job, Ty. Okay, Lauren, would you lead us through roll call, please?
President Boyd.
Here.
Vice President Kaczynski. Here. Director Griffin.
Here.
Director Rutora.
Here.
Director Sinema.
Present.
I've got full house. Okay, posting of agenda declaration.
The agenda for today's special board meeting is posted on Monday, May 1st, 2023.
Thank you. Conflict of interest declarations. Director Griffin.
I have none.
Kaczynski, none.
Rutora, none.
Director Sademon, none. But that being said, I must inform you that I am an employee of the federal government. However, my opinions expressed this evening do not necessarily reflect those of my employer or the other board of directors. Thank you.
And I have none as well. Okay, item 6, public questions and comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for people or persons who desiring to address the board on any item not on the agenda and over which the board has jurisdiction. However, no action may be taken by the board of directors on any item not appearing on the agenda. Non-agenda speakers are asked to limit their presentation to 5 minutes. Public questions and comments on items listed on the agenda will be accepted at any time any time the item is brought forward for the consideration of the board. When you're recognized by the chairperson, please state your name and address for the record. Do we have any public comments or questions at this time? Do we have anybody waiting in on the phone, Chris? Nope. Okay.
Reviewers.
All right. Item number 7, current business. Authorization to file notice of exemption 2023 emergency release project. And who's leading that discussion?
Is Isaac leading it? Maybe. I thought either.
Isaac, are you prepared to lead that?
If you want me to, I can. Also, I know Renee, if she present, has.
Oh, I'm sorry, Renee. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
I didn't know who was doing it. Yeah.
What? Yeah. From the legal, I can just from the legal standpoint, we need to, and then I'll let Renee kind of talk about the details of the project. But from the legal standpoint, the purpose of this is to both approve the notice of exemption or approve the project and authorize staff and legal counsel to file the notice of exemption. The notice of exemption is for compliance with CEQA, essentially stating that this project is exempt from CEQA, and thus starting the statute limitations on that, which will then provide protection to the district.
And that's a declaration that we're making, or is that fact?
You will be authorizing staff to file the notice of exemption. That notice of exemption states the rationale and the reason for the why it is exempt from CEQA. Gives a brief description.
Okay, fair enough.
It's exempt under the emergency. We're following under the emergency exemption, which is the CEQA guidelines section 15269 subsection C. As this project relates to dealing with emergency water being let out from DWR.
Okay.
DWP, sorry, LADWP.
And I noticed that the exemption has all these attachments to it, including requests for emergency from LADWP, Kern County, all these ones that went to the state for approval as an emergency.
And
Is that all part of the exemption package?
That is all part of the exemption package. The exemption package will include the notice of exemption form, which gives a description of the project. It's got maps that we show where exactly the district's seeking to utilize or recharge this water. And then we have resolutions. We've got the proclamation of the state of emergency from the state of California. We've got the declaration by the county of Inyo and all the county, the various counties involved, the letter from the office of the governor. So I think we are waiting from one, and when we have this notice of exemption, if the board is so inclined to approve it, we are waiting on one letter from the naval base that we hope to obtain tomorrow, is what Jim informed me. And once we get that, we'll be adding that to this notice of exemption if we are able to obtain it.
Okay.
I have one editorial comment. Paragraph 1, sentence 1, we have too many twos. The project is intended to help protect 2 U.S. naval facilities, ...
Yep.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was it.
We'll revise that. And like I said, the request is that you approve and authorize staff to file this,
Okay.
subject to the one last review and minor changes by legal counsel.
I also noticed under project location, it has shown on attached exhibits 1 through 5, but it's 1 through 6. So there are 6 exhibits. 6 maps, I should say.
And there may be, like I said, there may be one more. So,
Well,
yeah.
map 6 really doesn't show project locations, I guess. It just shows areas where DWP might be releasing water. Yeah. So I'm not sure.
Isaac, I have some questions about the specifics
Oh,
of
we
how
should
it's
say.
written. I'm reading through this, and it appears to me that all work is gonna be performed by hand. So I have kind of some concerns. Is that why we're doing this notice of exemption, and that saying that we won't use any equipment, or?
That had to do with Fish and Wildlife's concerns about bringing equipment out there and disturbing the areas around the site.
So that's what's being done with handbag, I mean,
'Cause they
sorry,
haven't-
sandbags that are hand placed.
Yeah, 'cause
Ah,
But what are we really gonna, we're not gonna benefit a whole lot if we can't do something to create more percolation.
it just would take too much time to put together that type of a project where we could bring in more heavy equipment, create ponds, all that kind of stuff. That's more of a permanent type facility. So we're just trying to get through what we could get done quickly.
by time you mean all the permits and.
Permits.
We may even have to go through a sequel.
We
and-
still are probably gonna
yeah.
have to do a stream bed alteration agreement, because we are putting things in the stream bed.
Right.
But we're not getting a take permit for species of concern out there, because that would take several months.
So we're trying to do what we're capable of doing in a short time frame, so we
Yes.
can at least benefit some from it.
Yes.
Is hiking out with sandbags and shovels.
Yes, that's what we're going to be doing after this meeting.
And the
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay,
We had earlier talked about having 2 efforts, one being the emergency immediate effort, and then a follow-on longer-term effort where we had more time to get
Exactly.
through all the environmental records.
This is just to get something going now to capture this and also prevent any damage in certain
Why don't we let
areas.
Renee describe what the
Yes.
project is, and then we can ask questions about it, because I feel like we're going to be.
You're on, Renee.
I didn't realize I was gonna be on today, but all right. The project description is here. It is putting in sandbag dikes within the banks of the Little Dixie Wash. We can't go outside the banks of the wash. And on the maps, it shows you where they're gonna be. They're only gonna be around 2 feet high, so they're not gonna be huge. But we're trying to avoid the water going outside the banks of the wash, because Fish and Wildlife was concerned about water getting into burrows and things like that out there. It was going to cost quite a bit of money to get all those parcels surveyed by the biologists. So we will need to do that eventually if we put permanent facilities out there. But for right now, this would avoid us having to get a take permit. And of course, like you said, we can't use heavy equipment out there. So that's it. And the location of those sandbag I can't say sandbag today. Sandbag dikes are on the maps. 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are all properties owned by the district.
But through the county, we could obtain a grading permit very fast to clear up to an acre. I mean, it would be very fast to do that without an incidental take permit. So as long as we're not clearing over 2 acres of land.
But if you're going to be in the wash, you still have to get a stream bed alteration permit, basically.
Correct, I understand.
Yeah, and getting the equipment out there, access to doing that might take you across lands that they don't want you to be driving across, that kind of a thing. So it's just more complicated. So that's what we decided to do right now. It was just pretty much obvious that they didn't want us doing anything major out there right now, unless we went
Who's
through the whole
paying for this?
process.
How are we doing and who's paying for it?
We're paying for it.
And I understand that the county might have sandbags or something of it. We're looking for anything we can get our hands on.
Right. I know Dawn's been in communication with the county to see if we can get assistance with sand and sandbags and even manpower.
It doesn't say the width of these things. I guess they all vary to
It
base.
varies, yeah.
Yeah, but they're not, some are short, some are probably longer. How about the manpower for this? This is some pretty heavy-duty manpower, I guess, to haul these handbags off and stack them up and all that.
So you gotta fill it by hand. You gotta stack them up 2 feet high by hand, and then when they're all done, we get to remove them by
Oh, they're
hand.
not giving us filled sandbags? Where are you allowed to take the fill from? The bed? Where do you get the fill? Where do you get the? That's the question I have is,
Yeah, I haven't been
is if you
able-
can't disturb anything. I can see why you're looking at that. I can see why this is so important to get done quickly, because we want to take advantage of everything we can. And as long as we agree that in the long run, we'll look at any regular solutions for it, along with LADWP, I would hope they would be involved as well, 'cause it's their overrun.
Yeah, we had talked about and made exhibits, including ponds and things like that, but it's
Right.
just,
You just can't get the
can't do that
permits
right
in
now,
time.
yeah.
Most of this water will be dead and gone by then.
So in your opinion, how much benefit are we gonna get? Are we actually gonna get a percolation to ever hit our groundwater basin without drilling a shallow well and doing some type of injecting? Is it gonna work?
I don't know, Chuck, you really want my opinion?
Well, no, because I think it's gonna be the same as mine. And so I want to do what we can, but I also have a concern.
I don't know how
that
much
we're gonna
benefit
spend a
we're
whole
gonna
bunch of money putting sandbags out, and it's not gonna really benefit us any. And if that's gonna be the concern, the truth, I mean, we're not gonna gain a whole lot unless because we're not talking a lot of surface area. We're talking Little Dixie Wash at its widest is 18 feet to 19 feet at the very widest. And at the narrowest, it could be 3 or 4 feet. So if we can't actually create a backup and let it fill up and create a reservoir of some type that may percolate. Now, I could see if we could drill a 100-foot well and then put a riser and let it and gain 100 feet, but we can't do any of that. So I have a concern because it's not gonna be cheap to go out there and have all of our staff fill in sandbags or hiring a contractor to do it and paying prevailing wage to fill sandbags. So I'm a little concerned if it's not gonna benefit us.
Well, it's also for protection in some areas too, is it not aren't we trying to protect water from going in certain directions because it may do damage in certain areas?
Yeah, I think that they did survey these areas, and so they're placing the sandbags in the widest areas of the wash they can. That's the best that we could do. Yeah, we can't drill a well or perk ponds or anything
I mean,
like
we'd
that
have,
right
yeah,
now.
we're talking years down the road before anything like that.
Do we have any property that's zoned ag that the district owns? Because there is no incidental take permit for ag.
I don't know, Chuck. It may be if it's owned by the district, it may not matter. Just because we're a public agency and any project that we do is subject to CEQA. So, maybe if it's privately owned and it's zoned ag, maybe that's true, but yeah, I don't know. That would be a question maybe Dave Scriven could answer, but he wasn't available today. So.
Any estimated cost yet? Right now, we're talking about just getting this request in. And then
Yes.
if we proceed, I think we should get the request in, but if all of a sudden we find out this is a $500,000 project, and is there contribution from anybody else on this? Because not only are we just trying to collect the water, we're doing some protection of some base land. I know they're concerned about the snort track and all that.
Also remember that this would not qualify as a project or come out of capital improvement within the budget. Because it is a temporary.
Right.
We're placing them and then removing them. It would come out of operations budget.
So where's the money available besides just out of that? Because I would hope that the contribution from anybody else that's benefiting besides us, there may be a benefit from the GA, for all I know.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the request that we are submitting that describes any detail of the project? So the project could be modified after the letter is submitted for permission, or is it
Other than it's 2 feet high, filled by hand, stacked by hand, and removed by hand.
Yeah,
You're locked into.
so they are linked.
Right, you're not locked in to perform that project. but you're
Correct,
locked
that's
into
correct.
the
Type of
design.
project.
Right.
I think labor would be the least amount that's been spent on this project. When we could get temporary employees and put them to work shoveling sandbags,
Yeah.
but, so you got legal and engineering and stuff involved in this, which is.
So, yeah, that's what I was thinking. You'd probably have to get temp employees, truckloads of sand from somewhere.
Right.
So I wish
Quick question about
no one could give me an idea of what the cost is going to be. Do we even have a range of cost?
We haven't been involved, unfortunately, all the discussions. It was Don and Jim and Chuck and Dave, and none of them are
Yeah, okay, well, sorry to put you
on
on.
here right now. I feel a little out of
Yeah,
out
sorry-
of it, but
Sorry to put you on the hot seat, but that's okay. I
Yeah.
mean, if you don't know, we don't know, and we'll move on. Director Seaman.
Right, so Isaac, I'm gonna let you have the floor because I heard you had a comment.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I haven't heard anything as far as cost or proposed cost from Jim. One of the things we can do is you can, if you do elect to approve this and move forward with a notice of exemption, request that staff comes back with a proposed cost for you to approve prior to spending money on it. I know that they were moving with urgency because this is a limited time, so that it is limited scope in what we can do with the stream bed alterations. And for permitting, it does serve multiple purposes, not only ideally perking, but also protecting from the flows headed into locations that are not desirable, and also helping potentially setting precedent of, okay, this is maybe a project that the district can work in the future too. And as you mentioned, on a larger scale and build some ponds there that, but by setting this precedent, we get a foot forward in that the district's leading the charge on this. As
So I have-
opposed to the, yay.
All right, thank you. So I have a question for clarification, then I have a statement. The sand for filling the sandbags, is it going to be drawn from the little Dixie wash, or does it have to be lugged in from someplace else? Do you have any idea?
I do not have any idea.
Okay,
If I was gonna do it, I would do it there. That way I could
Yep.
that makes the most sense.
I-
Why
deepen
import
the
dirt to a
wash at
sandy
that point in
wash?
time where I'm digging it, but.
Okay, well,
I
we'll
don't
hear
know if
more
that's-
about that later on. So
yes.
Isaac touched upon something that's important. Once we have a plan and a cost, then we can look to other organizations for assistance with the expense. But more importantly, it also helps the water district to purchase goodwill from a number of organizations, both at the state and the county and the local level. We're helping them mitigate a serious issue. The Department of Water and Power might be willing to put their political clout behind a more permanent solution, because we never know, it might be atmospheric rivers for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So we need to understand what the costs are, and we need to understand if we have to lug bags of sand in from some other place. But once we have those details, then we can come up with a rational decision. And ultimately, I think it does strategically put us in a good position to arrange for a more permanent solution that doesn't involve spilling the water out, having it evaporate, and being lost to the atmosphere.
Do we have any insights into the discussions with LADWP, Renee, or anybody regarding how long they plan to leave the water? My understanding is that once the water crosses into the Navy property, they're likely to turn off the tap because of previous problems in 2017.
The only thing I know of is what's in here, that email from Lori Dermody, I'm not sure, about the runoff conditions. All they've indicated is that it would continue for the next several months, so
Okay.
Well, if it,
possibly through August,
And I heard it might go through August.
yeah.
right, if it, crossing the Navy boundary triggered a shut-off of the water, that would be even more impetus for us to prevent the water from getting under the
Yes.
Navy, because it's the potential for 6,000 acre feet of water into the aquifer.
I like the goodwill idea of this because, first of all, if we get this approved and out there, do you have any idea on time frame? Once this goes out and it's all, signed, sealed, and delivered.
30 days.
So we have 30 days to put the project together, 30 days to have it done.
No, it has to be posted for 30 days.
Oh, it has to be posted for 30 days. So we have 30 days to put together the project costs and everything else to it. And the last comment I'll have is here the emergency, this is in the last paragraph, here the emergency is the need to mitigate potential property damage to Navy facilities at China Lake Playa from the emergency actions taken by LADWP. Now, I'm not, again, going back to the cost, but we can work that out because we're taking emergency actions on our end to prevent prevent the Navy damage as well as helping LADWP here. Hopefully, there's some help there in funding. And all we can do is, once we get a project cost together, is ask that question, is what I would hope.
Yeah, there'll either be no help, some help, or it's possible that the entirety of the cost could be covered by other parties.
But Director St. Armand said something very important, that there's all kinds of projections that these atmospheric rivers are going to happen, that El Nino is here, and we can expect more of this over the next few years. So by doing this and putting our foot forward and doing all the help we can, hopefully then we can use that as goodwill to some sort of a long-term project that would benefit LADWP and us, that would prevent this in the future. I like that idea. So my opinion is we should go ahead with the notice exemption as it is.
I've got just one input, and that is on page 2. It says the beneficiaries of the project are the people of the Indian Wells Valley, and I think we should add the U.S. Navy in there as well.
It's the second paragraph.
The second page.
Second paragraph on the second
It's a single
page.
sentence paragraph.
Second sentence, right. The beneficiaries of the project are the people of the Indian Wells Valley. You just add, the beneficiaries of the project are the U.S. Navy and the people of the Indian Wells Valley.
Is there
Yeah, I
any
agree with
reason that we shouldn't do that, Isaac?
What's that?
Is there any reason that we should not consider that?
Yeah, on the beneficiaries, maybe add something.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely want to keep the people of the Indian Wells Valley because that are your constituents, and this is a project that is being carried out by the district. I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't want to that it hurts to add the Navy as well.
Yeah, I think it's a comment saying that also adds to help protect potential damage to the Navy properties, something like that.
I make a motion that we accept we move forward with the notice of exemption.
Have a
Second.
Second, okay. Call for vote.
I think we have public
Oh,
comments there.
Public comment.
Public comment, sorry. You do. Come on up, make public comment.
We don't want to discourage anybody.
I figured you came here for a reason.
Cookies. Now we're getting down to the real business. Sorry, I'm Don Decker. Actually, what I want to talk to you about, I'm Dr. Don Decker. The idea that you're going to have surface percolation from a slow-moving, narrow, relatively stream is, it's not going to happen. You're going to wet the top a few tens of feet if it lasts for months. Excuse me. And that's about what's going to happen. The effect may actually, bringing the water into place in the streams may actually increase groundwater levels, and you can get excited about that. But you're not increasing the water in storage at all. All you're doing is increasing the pressure on the water-bearing part of the aquifer and squeezing the pore volume down a little smaller, and the water rises maybe a foot. It happens fairly quickly too. So that's a clue that it's not recharge. In the long term, it'll return back to where it was. The other thing here, I don't know whether any of you have ever done an irrigation, like Orange Grove irrigation, where you've got free water and you're trying to keep it corralled around trees. When you plug up a hole, you got sandbags in the wash. When you do that, you're going to build up some water behind it, and the next thing you know is the water will be cutting around the ends of the sandbags, and within a half a day or so, you'll be right back where you started from after all of that work. You can patch it up. You can have a whole crew with shovels and promise not to dig any sand out of the wash, repairing, and you're not going to get anywhere. It's an idea that it's imperfect to the extreme.
I appreciate your comments, Dr. Decker. I would draw the attention of the board to the county's efforts in 2017 to capture the water in the Freeman Gulch, where they just moved sand and put in a couple of culverts to flow. Of course, they've been destroyed now after less than a month. And similar reasons, the erosion around the culverts in that case eroded the sand berm away and just opened it up, and away it went. So, I guess that would be something we could also look at as evidence that, these ideas might not be best.
I think it's something that we can move on with this, because the one question I have is, who decided the sandbag location? Was that LADWP? Was it Tim Parker? Was it?
I was not on those discussions.
So we can have
but
those.
I assume it was based on the surveys that were done in the widest part of those wash areas.
And of course, all this, we have 30 days to look at the costs and revisit this. Okay.
Absolutely.
And I just want to make one comment. I'm good with going forward and filing this exemption, but I do want to look at the project, because I do agree with Dr. Decker. In order for this to work, we would have to make keyways, and we'd have to build dams with overflows. I mean, it would take some work to make a reservoir, and I believe we would have to have some type of injection at least 100 feet down with a riser in the middle where it's overflowing and feeding from the top to get any type of percolation. But I think it's important to do this to move forward to where maybe we could look at a banking project or something like that in the future, because if we have it, it sets a precedent, and I understand that. So that would be, I don't think it's going to hurt to file this exemption, but I would like to look at the project, because.
And I think we'll get our chance. Yeah.
Fair enough. Dr. Decker.
One thing I forgot to mention, if you locate your sandbags in a spot that has minimal banks, it's wider, the stream is wider. That is, it's not very well defined compared to some place that's only 3 feet wide. If you force the water out of that water course by sandbagging, you have the danger of actually creating a different route for the water. And that's exactly how a lot of the streams have been modified. The stream that comes out of Indian Wells Canyon, for example, heads right straight for the old hangar at the Inyukurun Airport. But with a shovel and about 5 minutes worth of work, you can direct it into an adjacent wash where it goes considerably north of the airport. So, you know, where the water goes is all important here. You're not going to stop it with sandbags in a sandy wash. It's impossible. So,
Thank you.
To Dr. Decker's concern, one of the stipulations from the state is that the water cannot leave the wash. So those sandbag dikes have to be lower than the actual banks.
So there's some engineering concerns that would have to be addressed. That's not the purpose of tonight's meeting.
No, I agree.
And the water that flows into the valley does run down streams and gets into the valley by soaking through the ground under the river. So some of the water will be recharged, but recharge isn't the purpose of the emergency exemption. The exemption is to address the risk of having water flow out onto to the naval facilities.
Speaker?
Judy Decker. I know you have a board meeting on Monday, I believe. I don't know if that's too soon, but I would like to know how much money the district has spent with engineering consultants and legal thus far on this proposed project. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody calling in with comments, Chris? Okay.
Ty, can you get a number for, I don't believe it's a whole lot in this case, but
Some of it I won't have.
yeah,
So far.
You know,
So far.
engineering's typically a month behind on billing.
right,
so-
yeah.
Thanks for that, Ty. Okay, well, I'll call for a vote. We've got a first and a second.
President Boyd,
Yes.
Vice President Kaczynski,
Yes,
Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Rotora,
Yes.
Director St. Amant.
Yes.
Okay, looking at the docket, it's 4:30 and we're on number 8, which is called adjournment. I think we're done. Thank you very much for your interest and your comments and discussion.